Hey everyone, it's Veronica Bartolini with Breaking the Truth here, Code Breaker Real Talk with Rocco Fowler. And today we're going to talk about Montauk, what he went through, specific things. And guess what happened yesterday, Rocco? While I was
What may that be?
there was a knock on the door when I was doing the video yesterday with the psychic, the video on the group that we were talking about psychic powers and stuff. And there's a knock on the door and it's Homeland Security. I was like, we must be doing
Oh
something right.
man.
And
Yeah.
they were investigating supposedly someone here that lives here, not me, supposedly. And I told the guy joking, like, "Well, you sure you're not checking up on me?" He's like, "No."
I'd
Mm.
bug sweep if I was you.
Oh,
I'd
I'm
bug
bugged
sweep.
already. I know I'm bugged. It's been
Yeah.
confirmed. Yeah, I don't care. They know.
Okay.
Then
All
I'm
right.
speaking the truth. I'm speaking the truth, and they, it's the truth,
Yeah,
man.
no, I have had to be careful with that. Because myself personally, a couple of times it was put underneath family members and friends' cars of mine. Um, and I found it, and it's very small. It's like a chip almost. And I've found it, but you got to pay money for a bug sweep. It's like, and then you feel like, oh man, and when you don't find anything, it's like, why did I even bother? But wow, that's pretty interesting, especially, you were on an interview or it happened after the interview.
It was before the interview.
Oh,
15 minutes,
wow.
15 minutes before I had already gotten logged on with the girls and with the ladies yesterday, and then yep.
All
So
right.
I
Well,
know my car is bugged.
uh-huh.
My
Yeah, I
place
think
is bugged.
everybody's that's targeted.
Yeah. They followed my family. I'm not gonna get into it because I've talked about it so many times already. They follow me at the gym, wherever I go. I leave, even if I leave my phone here on airplane mode and off, my car's bugged, and then of course they have those the drones that they can even read your license plate, so they can track you, they can track your
Right.
heat. We
Exactly.
got chips, we got chips and we got implants and shit. So anyway, excuse my language, but Rocco, I'm glad you're back. There was a comment about something on the on our the other show that we did with Jesse, and there was a comment. I don't know this person. They just commented about how could these kids be in Montauk if the program ended, he said, in 1960. I'm like, well, have you heard of time displacement?
Oh my God. No,
Have you
no.
heard of
Oh
memory
my God.
wipes? Go ahead.
Oh my God. Oh my God. First of all, let me reiterate all of that for you in as small as context I can, right? Okay, so most people when they start to believe in something, which a lot of people in the community, it's unfortunate, believe that they're a part of something, but they've never ever been to that place. They've never even, had their feet touch the ground there. They never really felt the physical feeling of that place and what that place brings. And also, not to mention, yeah, it might have ended the quote unquote when Junior broke through and the, psychic's mind went wild and yeah, all of that. But that could all be just a dream. Once again, that Alfred Bielik and Preston Nichols. How many times am I going to repeat? As a child, Jay Sears used to come to our schools. You know, he would take pictures. He would call himself the Angel Man. Come to find out years later, this guy was taking children's heads and, out of pictures that he would take and add them to, you know, um, dirty magazines. I mean, he finally got busted. Thank God. The guy was a creep. You know, everybody seems to think that if you haven't time traveled, if you don't know Preston Nichols, if you don't know any of these people, you were never involved in quote unquote the Montauk Project. Well, I always believed that there was stuff that happened after the Montauk Project, quote unquote, when Junior broke through. Um, First of all, the place was up and just left, okay? Um, and you know, it was closed to the public till almost, I think, about 2011, I'd like to say. Somewhere around that period of time. And I'd like to shout out Montauk is Strange. That's right, Montauk is Strange. Definitely check out their YouTube channel. Plenty of information, plenty of video footage, not even from this era. We're talking about possibly as far back as even the early 80s into the 90s footage of this base. And if you get caught up there, you get arrested. What more than a better place to take a child, leave aside of it was wide open. It was wide open. I started preschool on the airbase. Mind you, I have, family members on my mom's side that were Air Force, and I ended up going to a Gabreski in West Hampton Beach, and I went on Oprah's plane. I was taken out of class, asked series of questions like because I remember now looking back, I even said to my mom the other day, a couple weeks ago, at one point I said to her, I said, "Do you remember I used to say that I want to, do that thing to myself, And she said, "Yeah, you did that quite often, and you'd go in the kitchen and pull it out, and threaten yourself, and um, you were always like, I was always bullied. I was always called the sped. I was always called all of these things." And they started bringing us up to Montauk on class trips. And I remember it was the lighthouse where we were brought. Other people say that we were switched from one bus to another bus. There's so many stories to this, right? That I even question my own sanity on a daily basis. Is this really true? Did this really happen to me? Is this an implanted memory? Everything that Joseph Howell, everything that Arkeem Ra, everything that those people put in my head were false, implanted thoughts and fake, fraudulent psychic readers or healers or this or that, because I hate to say it, but that's what happens. And then you get roped in pretty much with sex kittens, and like I said, it takes two to tango. You have a choice in this world. That's the difference. When you break the cycle, like what my channel is called, breaking the cycle, it means you break the cycle completely. You break that karmic cycle so it doesn't continue to happen. And you fight for the cause. You fight for it. You go out into your local neighborhood, you find out what's going on in your, school districts, your kids' school districts. But we would go on these class trips. And I mean, there was a trail that was, not too far off from the lighthouse that I remember that, you know, later on in 2014, 15-ish, or when I first found out about it through a dream. I'll be real, it was a dream, but it's pretty interesting that everything that was in the dream was basically right in front of me when I pulled up to this place. So my friend, when we pulled up to the place, said, he looked at me and he said, I remember being here. I don't know if it was in a dream or if we were actually underground. And the whole day we had nothing but missing time. We had nothing but, I broke down completely because I started reliving a actual experience of having my head dunked, um, almost to the point of death and being brought back, like they say. I don't like using people's words, but it's basically the same thing. Kids died in the name of science. Kids are still dying in the name of science. They're still using us. They got these things now where you could just open it up and dump your newborn baby in. How sick has this world become? The other thing is, growing up, you know, I always had my family. I always had my dad. My dad taught me a lot of things. But he was dating this one woman, and because him and my mom stayed really close, like close friends. Um, that's where the story gets really deep. As far as my experience. Um, so just hated going to school. I was always getting suspended. I was always getting ISS, in school suspension. I didn't want to take meds. I thought being the class clown was, the best option. And to be honest with you, part of me wishes I could go back and change some of that. But then part of me says, you know what? It happened. It's over. I'm living a new life now. I've turned over a new leaf. And, if people want to believe what I'm saying now and or just say, oh, it's just normal for this stuff to happen, well, they haven't gotten into the story. And I really haven't gotten too far into the story because what happened to me is pretty heartbreaking. And it's heartbreaking because it's happening to so many kids, so many kids, so many kids. And in fact, right now in the Kansas City or St. Louis area, uh, they're losing funding for these children, and there's supposed sex trafficking going on. And I'm investigating it because I believe it has to do with one of the homes that I ended up in. But it was more of a facility like type thing. So for years, I just trouble, drugs, hanging out with the wrong people, not being able to hold jobs, in and out of jail, on probation, drove my grandparents' car through the garage drunk, just because I was so messed up from the stuff that happened to me, at my 10th birthday. This was happening while another individual that roped me into coming to his basement basically sat there and used me as a F toy. So, I was afraid to say anything, and I was very depressed and angry at the same time because I really wanted to say something, but I was afraid. And this happened numerous times. So my 10th birthday rolls around. I remember I got a GT bike, nice bicycle, but then I was in the room and there was about, I'd say 7, maybe 8 other kids, same age, basically tell me to get down and, you know, I'm gonna do that to you. And that kind of splits your mind. It kind of, you become disassociated from life. Um, You see, a lot of people with the UFO stuff and all that stuff, they don't acknowledge the fact that they possibly have been raped, and it took me a long time to do that. And now I'm proud to do that because you know what? I'm not lying. I'm not telling, false truths just to get clicks and views. That's not what I'm here for. I'm here for people out there that have had similar experiences. So yeah, that just kind of sent me off the cliff to where I got sent to live with my grandparents around 13. And when I drove the car to the garage, my dad was living in Missouri at the time. And I was sent to live with my father. And there for a while, me and my father lived in what I call a cult. They didn't believe in eating meat. It was, you had to work. You had to, work for your place to live, not money, but being out in like cornfields and stuff. And it was just, oh, it sucked. Dead of the heat, middle of nowhere. And my dad decided he wanted to up and leave. So we up and left, and he found a place, and he started drinking again. Dad was an alcoholic, and I guess this place was supposedly helping him with alcohol, but it really wasn't. It was just creating more stress. So he, meets with, my dad was a very friendly person. Um, a lot of people liked him. So he was one of those people that are very easy to get along with. And so he gets a job working for a guy. It's going well, rent's getting paid, but the drinking, he's continuously drinking, continuously drinking. Now, this is the messed up part is, I'm getting thrown out of school for stuff I shouldn't. I'm fighting, flipping the principal off. And, my dad was not in a state really to be, watching over me, I believe. And I know he loved me, but at the same time, it was like he began to allow me to drink. He began to allow me to smoke cigarettes. He began to play quarters with me. And it was right around, I want to say, after Thanksgiving, or right around Thanksgiving, close to it. And one night we went to a bar, and he was saying this was after we got into the fight, and he didn't want to talk to me. He didn't want nothing to do with me. But that night we went to the bar. Later on, he said, "I got to stop and get, my paycheck." And I said, "I don't think it's a good idea you go there." So I'm laying in, the vehicle. I'm a little drunk myself. I pass out. Next thing you know, I hear boom, 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 boom. Your father's laying on the ground covered in blood. So I run inside the house, and he's guys going like this, scraping the counter like this because it's methamphetamines. And, he wants to clean up before he goes to prison. I get jerked up by one of my dad's other friends because they're trying not to get me in the foster because they know about the foster care system. Well, the cops show up to this house, end up arresting the one guy, and he didn't do nothing wrong. He didn't do nothing wrong. It was just a parole violation because he was out. Nothing wrong. He was saving, trying to help me. It was a bad situation. But I never got to tell my father I loved him, so I was angry about that as well. And I end up in the police station. Not even 20 minutes of being in the police station, a foster parent is there to pick me up. And from there, the nightmare begins. I was taken to a place, like it was a home, but it was like deep in the woods. And I was already wondering how the hell do I, for about 14 years old, I was like wondering what can I do to get out of here? What can I do? I was already scheming plans, like wanting to get the hell out of foster care. Like I didn't like it. The minute I got to these people's home, the night my father was murdered, basically in front of me, I was told by these foster parents, to get in my effing room and go to sleep. And I just remember laying there and saying to myself, wow, what just happened? How did this just happen? Like, I didn't want to believe it for like the longest. And so I end up getting, and the funny thing is I'm already enrolled in school. How's that happen overnight? How the hell are you just enrolled in school? Oh yeah, we drop you up at school. I get dropped up at school. Next thing you know, black SUV pulls up. It's social services. Another foster home. More abusive foster parents. Uh, not allowed to listen to certain kinds of music. Um, church every Sunday. If you smoke cigarettes, you're gonna burn in hell. Shame on you. You shouldn't do that. You should be, ashamed of yourself. So the shaming game, the blaming game, the mind manipulation. So it's like MK Ultra happens in general. It seems these people are programmed. They're trained through the system. 6 months, a guy was like, "Oh yeah, it takes like 3 years to become a foster parent." No, it doesn't. 6 months. 6 months. So they take me to this other foster home. I tell the lady right away, I don't want to fucking be here. Those are my clear words. I don't want to effing be here. She says, well, that's tough. I said, well, then, you're going to end up having a rough time with me. And I raised hell there. I raised lots of hell there. But I was locked in my room most of the time. That's what these foster parents would do. So I ended up getting kicked out of school in a town, Mountain Grove, Missouri. And then I was shipped to what they call the Missouri Baptist Children's Home in St. Louis, Missouri.
How old were you there when you were in St. Louis, Missouri?
I was around 14 still.
That's, yeah. Yeah.
They were passing me around like a football. I mean, this is what it goes further than that. And so I get to this place and I'm in the back of this SUV and I'm like, what the hell? Why am I being brought all over the place? Like, and it's like they'll be there in a drop of a hat. They're waiting. Get your bag, get your stuff. Come on now. Now you're going here. Now you're going there. Um, so when I get there, the staff say to me, there's a lot of rules. I hope you're ready for rules. And I remember when I walked in, it looked like a literal jail. The bricks, everything. Now, this is supposed to be a Christian, type home for kids. And I look over through the glass, right? And there's this panel, and it says room 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I look over, and there's a girl's side. I'm like, this is like a damn jail. I see the tables, and then he says, you act up, you'll go in that quiet room for 24 hours with the lights out on a concrete or cement floor, tile floor, but it was like one of the, like, not full tile. It was like, I don't know, I can't remember, but it was very cold. And one morning I woke up and after my door was unlocked, plexiglass windows, small bed, mattress about this big. And they say to me, okay, it's time for you to go get your meds. Meds? I'm not on meds. They said, you are now. I said, excuse me? I'm not on fucking meds. And they're like, do you want to get restrained? I'm like, you're not my dad. You can't put your hands on me. I said, go ahead, put your hands on me. I was one of those ones that go ahead, put your hands on me. You're not my parent. I know you're not. And, I battled with authority in a sense because of seeing what happened with my dad. It was an authority thing. It was, you're not my dad. You're not my mom. You're not my family. I don't know you. So he says to me, no, you're going to take these meds. So the next thing you know, I get restrained, and they literally, like, the way they restrained me was like putting their knee in my back and taking my arms and pulling me back, like, somewhat, and making me take these meds. And then when I took the meds within like 45 minutes, I was like, I was just a zombie. So that was my first day in school, and I'm in a school right there on the property. Um, and I meet this girl, and we start talking, and we're not supposed to be fraternizing, keep in mind. And she's older than me by much. She's older than me. And she says to me one day, right? Um, you know, uh, let's get the hell out of here. I see what they're doing to you. She said, and I got a safe spot for you. So one day we're walking outside. She says, you ready? You got your bag? I said, I'm ready. And we ran and they chased us about a good, I'd say, mile. I was out. I was gone. 2 weeks. We're walking up towards a Greyhound 2 weeks later, right? And I was all ready to come back, get here to New York. I had a ticket to purchase, the whole nine. And the cops saw me, saw her. We were sent right back to that home. Then I was sent to what they call the cigarette, cigar smelling Christians foster home. where you got 3 pairs of pants, enough shirts to get through the week. Then everything was cheap. I mean, dirt cheap. They wouldn't even take you shopping. They knew your size. They knew your eye color. They knew everything about you. You were what they call a foster credit, nothing else. We're not foster children because once you turn 18, you're turned to the street. And I was worried about that. I was really worried about that. And, every opportunity that I got, I tried to escape. So being in this home, I get in, I noticed, they're a little overweight, this couple. They're whacked out. They're letting the foster kids smoke cigarettes right in the kitchen. Here, you want a cigarette? I was like, hell yeah, because I smoked it, so it's like, hell yeah, I'll take, I'll take it. But these people would make me stay in my room most of the time, like when, I hear this from a lot of people. So this is a repetitive thing. They say, go in your room, and don't come out. Ask to use the bathroom, ask to do this, ask to do that. So then it was like I was there. I'd say maybe this is St. James, funny St. James, someone else in the community. Yeah. Anyways, Missouri. So, anyways, I get shipped back to the same facility. About 2 days later, I'm being shipped all the way to Springfield, Missouri, to another lockdown facility where I was medicated to no end. Like, same thing, restraints, basically like being in prison, 23-hour lockdown when you first get there, plexiglass windows. You can't even open your windows. It gets so hot. And then at one point they put me on one side of the house because they thought I was suicidal and also sent me to a psych ward and gave me one blanket. And there was like cool air coming through the vent. I mean, this is, and then I said, I didn't know about the wheelbarrow just yet. And somebody I think might have warned me or said something. But I cursed 100 times. I got 100 wheelbarrows. Now I'd have to take these rocks up this steep hill, and I'm gonna try to get pictures of this place where the hill is. And there'd be piles of rocks. I mean, huge. Your hands would be all busted up, callousy, disgusting. But you dump them at the top of the hill, dump them all 100, right? And I thought I was done after that. The guy turned around and he said, you ain't done. He says, now you got to take all them rocks and you got to bring them back down the hill and dump them. So I mean, it was very strenuous on me. I still have issues at 35 years old with my back. I think I threw my back out a few times doing that. But the restraining and the drugs and the being locked up and the wheelbarrows and the, being locked in rooms, and being given just the amount of clothes to get through, but they don't last long at all. But meanwhile, these people are getting paid anywhere from $600 to $700 a child a month. A month.
What did they
So,
feed you? Did they feed you?
okay, so I was, right. Weirdest thing was, is the only place that did this. I was lactose intolerant, they said. So I was getting fed at a different table away from everybody else, and they were cooking something else for me. Couple of times I felt when I got out from the table, I felt like I was, it was a way they were feeding me, possibly giving me my meds. I mean, this is years old. What are they going to do to me now? Nothing. Go ahead, do it. Because I want to go after you people. I want people to know how cruel the system really is. So I ended up, they were giving me like, it was like nothing dairy. So picture that, nothing dairy. Um, so like soy, just like jail. And eventually I got put in a foster home. These people ended up being grifters in the foster care system. Got in my face, told me I never see my effing mother again. She's a crackhead and, she's all messed up. And, no, she wasn't. She was trying to find me. And she wanted, no, she wanted me home. But the system kept telling her, nope, you got to do this. Nope, you got to do that. Nope, you got to do this. After she completed several programs, she's got her own past too. I mean, we all have our own past, but it doesn't give anybody the right to abuse anybody in any kind of way. So they were very hands-on as well. I was restrained. The one son was a police officer. He would always threaten to put me in jail. Um, and juvie or whatever. And I said, go right the fuck ahead. I don't care. Go ahead. I really don't care. it you know it it's not going to bother me. I'm numb, and I've been numb for quite some years. So like I'll take pain and I'll take, people's abuse for only so long. And now I'm at a point in my recovery where I really don't care what you think about me. Whoever listens to this, they might say, oh, this dude's just crazy. Well, you go through what I went through. I guarantee you half of you boys wouldn't make it because you all have lived with silver spoons in your mouths, most of you. And you've been paid for lying. You don't tell the truth that I'm telling that, probably happened to quite a few of you people out there that are talking about being in space. But what happened to you here to make you start believing all of that stuff? Just because somebody tells you doesn't mean it's the truth. Hypnosis doesn't mean it's the truth. You never know who you're dealing with when it comes to hypnosis. They will put nasty, vile things in your head that never even happened. And you might go do something stupid because you think that that was what really happened. But then when you wake up in that cold jail cell, like Jesse was talking about the bars and seeing outside and holding the bar, all that whole situation right there makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense. Most of my, I haven't heard from any. I've been trying to reach out to some of these foster kids, because I'm trying to start like a movement with it. So that's my goal. So I want everywhere. I want it everywhere. I want people investigated. I want systems investigated. As being a former abused child in the system and many different ways. I'm not going to sit here and say that the Montauk part was all a big story. I mean, from what I can remember, I was mostly, torturous stuff, you know, uh, a lot of rape. I mean, Preston didn't just do some of the things. I mean, I heard the comment yesterday, oh, he bought everything. No, he didn't. He got kicked out of that place. He got kicked out of there because he kept going back there. People, I lived on Long Island. I will school you on all of this. And then I will have my friend Brian Mimic school you on every bit of it too. Which, by the way, if you watch Montauk is Strange, you'll see that he's got the blueprints right on his YouTube channel. The actual blueprints. And there's no manholes in the actual blueprints. So now come on, man. Let's get real here. Let's stop the lies. Let's move forward. Help one another. Not hurt one another. But back to that whole, being in that abusive home. So I wasn't allowed to have girlfriends, and now I'm 15, about 15. Now I can't have girlfriends, I can't have friends, I can't have, I can't go anywhere. I have to read the Bible. Um, I'm told I'm going to hell. The shaming was just terrible. Being told where to go, when to go, and basically being watched all the time. Never getting a breath of fresh air, basically. These people wanted to know everything and anything I was doing. What are you doing? Playing video games? What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? It's bedtime. What are you doing? Okay. I mean, bedtime on a Friday night for a 15-year-old, 6 o'clock. So then I got kicked out of there. I ended up, well, I didn't get kicked out. They grifted the system for as much money as they could and then said that they had to move, which that's a lie. They just used it for the money, got me for a little while, abused me a little bit, had fun with their abuse, verbal, physical, whatever it is, God fearing, trying to make me fear God, just psychological stuff that was, I wouldn't want anybody to go through it. But I ended up going to a place called Stepping Stones, and that's the place where I stole the bus. And when we AWOL'd from that facility, that really wasn't lockdown. That was more like you need to get a job or get the fuck out. That was it, so we said one day, me and like two other guys were like, you know what, let's just leave. And we stole cars, we stole buses, we did all this stuff. And I mean, we were angry. We didn't want to be in that situation. So then I got sent back after the police hounded me for about 4 hours, threatening that I'm going to do all this prison time. And I never got a note in the mail. I just got shipped to another foster home in Kansas City, Missouri. Independence Avenue. I would love to see some of these tough guys in here, especially Eric Hecker. I would love to see you sit or stand on Independence Avenue and you're white. Oh my God, man, they would eat you up. Picture being a little boy like me. You might be laughing at me, you might be calling me a fraud, but picture me being kicked by a grown man, 200 and something pounds, laying on the ground in the front yard of a sober or a Christian foster home that's supposed to be there to help these kids, but there's broken windows and cardboard in the windows. And you're sitting there and you're getting kicked and kicked and kicked and kicked. And this lady across the street screams, "Hey, what are you doing to that kid? You can't be doing that. That's abuse." That woman saved my life, or that girl saved my life. Gave me her address, phone number, and said, "Get the hell out of there. I got a spot for you, and we'll get you back." And that was the last foster home I was in. My mom ended up finding me. And I ended up not wanting to go. I was shaking. I probably weighed about 100 and maybe 20 pounds at that time, literally. Black eyes, from being beat. Um, these gang, I believe, stalkers, would be coming around, and they'd be wanting to play games. And the one guy had Tim's on one night and he kicked me right square in the face. Um, so, maybe I did use the N word and to other people and whatnot, but I was really badly, unfortunately, abused by people of that ethnic. So, you know, and they would call me a cracker, and they would call me a honky, and they would call me all kinds of names. And it didn't help being from New York and being in the Midwest. They do not like New Yorkers here as much. Now is a different story. I have kids. I live on my own, but when I got back, I got out of foster care. We moved back in with my mom's ex. He ended up getting us a place. I ended up throwing parties there, causing all kinds of hell. My mom ended up having cancer. I did some really hateful things towards my mother too. I was not right at all, and I didn't want to talk to anybody. I didn't start opening up about my father's murder until about, I'd say, maybe 2 years ago. I fully opened up and am able to speak about it without having any kind of issues. But uh, I dealt with that, and then I ended up getting involved with the wrong people at 16 years old in New York. So I'm getting involved with these wrong people. I'm hanging out with all these people. I'm ending up in sober houses. 17, my mom told me, "You're going to have to find a place because you made me lose my Section 8. And so from there, it was on me. And I made it to my 21st birthday, and then I ended up in prison because I had nowhere to live, and I was breaking into my own family member's home, because I had an addiction at the time. And I ended up in prison I did 4 years, and then I did 5 years parole. So I was about 30 years old when I got out of the system and haven't looked back since. but it seems that I've always been targeted since a kid with the police.
How did you get
They,
roped in? Sorry, how did you get roped in with the SSP and all that crap? That,
well, that happened when I got sober in 2014 when I celebrated a year. And then my celebrant, right? The person who was celebrating with me, she ended up overdosing. And we were close. We were really close. So that kind of set me off the edge some more. And um, I started digging into this Montauk and went out there and found out for myself that there was some kind of connection. And you know, who knows? Maybe somebody will come to me one day and tell me what that exact connection is, or I'm just going to continue to tell this story right here for the rest of my life, because hopefully somebody hears it, a mother hears it and says, you know what? I need to check into that stuff. I need to check in to see if Johnny, what's going on in his school? Is he being abused? That's the whole thing. Is doesn't matter if it's MK Ultra. Abuse is abuse. And it's a form of MK Ultra. Hello, abuse. So technically they're still using it. And then I got roped in and I ended up meeting James. And I had no memory. I had no memory whatsoever. And I was going around to everybody in the community looking for help. And then eventually nobody wanted to help me. So it was kind of like Jesse's situation. I really don't care. I'm going to shoot you all, motherfuckers. I was at that point and I flipped out. So now I'm called the crazy guy. I don't really care. What did Max Spears do? He didn't care. He flipped out on people right on camera. Half the stuff you people say about me, you would never even look at Max Spears in the face and say, because he'd destroy you. That's why Miles won't talk to James Casbolt, because James Casbolt already said, stay away from me, or you know what's going to happen.
James, what's his name? Johnston, Miles Johnston from Basis Project. He has so many videos on Casbolt and Max, and he would give people updates about, where they took Casbolt. I want to know. I know that they framed him for a wrong cause. They were saying something bad about Casbolt, and I want to know.
They were
Did he?
saying a lot of bad things. It's the same thing that I tried to explain to Jesse. You got to be careful. People will photobomb you. Miles Botson did it to me. Changed my voice around and made me say things that I didn't even say. And YouTube wasn't doing anything about it. But they'll quickly, for Whitberg or this one, because he's crying tears, because he's not really somebody's father, and somebody's calling him out. And I'm still going to call him out every time until he stops using or saying that the man is his son. He's not your son. And I'm not your brother, Ark. I'm not. Stop referring to me as that. I'm
It's
not.
because they have these people telling them, oh, well, I had a memory of you, which could, most of the time it's a lie, because they want to make a hive mind. They want to feel important. If you notice, most of the people in the secret space program, they want to be close to, they want to say that they knew Max, and it's a bunch of lies, or Casbolt, because they want to feel important. And no, John Whitberg is not Max's dad, and no, that woman that we
Carbon Welter lived with me. She came and stayed with me.
And who's that?
Yeah. One of Casbolt's, you know what? Yeah. And she had a lot of letters from him. And I mean, I had a very hard time reading these letters. I mean, you have to decode everything. It and just looking at it kind of made my eyes go, oh, and like, so back to all this because it's really important to get the part out about the Montauk boy thing and how, like, I have a lot of friends that are dead now, but also I remember my mom having to break up fights in the basement because there's blood all over the place because we were sitting around getting high and one person says something to another person and it starts a fight. That's how Montauk boys hang out. They hang out and beat the crap out of each other, or maybe even, the other way. You never know. You never know. The psychosis, like I said, man, the stuff you're not supposed to remember everything. Yeah, I remember the rituals. Yeah, I remember being brought to Shadmore Park. Yeah, I remember that stuff, but I don't want to talk about that stuff. I want to talk more about the solution, you know, to the more believable stuff where people are going to listen and find something in it rather than say, oh, this guy's just full of it. He's talking about he went to space last night. No, I don't. I don't want that reputation. No, I don't. I'm who I am. I'm Rocco Dylan Fowler. Is born in 1987. The time travel, whatever. All that. Keep it. Just keep it. If you didn't notice, those guys were going off their rockers towards the end of their life. Some
Are
of
you
them.
talking about Eric Bealey, or who are you talking about?
Bielik.
Yeah, Alec Bealey.
Alfred Bielik, yeah, he was going off
Alfred.
his nutter. Yeah, he was a little nutty towards the end.
He talked about time travel. He talked about Pegasus. He talked about being in another body. That
Yeah,
they told
it's,
him
it's
that they said that he could have all his memories. Um, who knows what he had to do, but that he could have
but
all his memories in a new body.
but the reality of it is that really true? Did he ever
Have to
show
find
any
out.
factual evidence? There's no factual evidence to any of this. When are people going to realize that Peter the Insider's not giving shit but Halo codes? The whole Skynet thing and all that stuff. Adrian said he met this Peter the Insider and all this stuff. And I'm just not, I'm not happy. I paid $100 and I got Halo codes. I didn't get real records.
But what are those codes for? I have no idea what I've never heard of this.
Your
So
programs, your everything,
oh,
what programs you were involved in. It's all a lie. It's a computer program that people charge people money and, to get their, readings. But Adrian was ripping people off. He was big time. There's a lot of grifters in this program. There's a lot. They'll sell you, whatever they can.
we have to be careful who we trust in any community. Like you were saying earlier, people that do, tarot readings could be feeding you lies. They could be feeding you false memories, and then
Yep.
and then you think that you're like this NAZI person and that that they're good, that there's some good, you know, it's hard because I was roped into the Nahuatl thing, you know, and I do have memories of being a pilot. I do have memories of being in Shutter Island in the Montauk program. I do have memories of all the stuff that they talk about, but those are my memories. And I started talking about them. You can look at my first video. It was 2019 when I was like doing readings, when I said I need to go help the people. I didn't know, you know, I was going to talk about super soldier stuff until the following year. And I was getting memories, and I was, see what happens with this, what happens with this is, what I've noticed for me is, when I was 35, I I went to the police academy because I always wanted to be a cop, okay? Excuse me. So I was 35, and I was beginning to remember things as a kid, just things like, you know, things that happened with my family that I've talked about before, things that happened to me physically, sexually, you know,
Right.
all that crap. Things
Yeah.
that I didn't
Yeah.
remember until I was 33 years old. So
Right.
then
Right.
I go
Right.
into the
Right.
right. So I go into the police academy when I'm 35, and that's when they hit the other programming. And then when I, you know, unfortunately, you know, I shot myself because I thought I was going crazy. I
Yeah.
literally, you know,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
cried for the
That's where I
day.
say the psychosis comes in
Right. It's the
sometimes.
Omega programming they hit you with because somehow they don't want this information to come out.
They
So
don't
what
want
is
any of it,
they don't want any
but
of it,
there's
right?
so much lie in the information.
That's true too.
There's,
Very
like you were saying, 90%. Yeah, I would say that's pretty predominantly for all around in all of these communities. Is 90% is, with 10%,
even
believable.
MUFON, what we were talking about earlier, MUFON,
Well,
even
I mean, move on is a whole nother, yeah.
monster.
I mean, that's you open up to an investigator, they're looking, they need a place to stay, they're speaking at a conference, and then they turn around and they basically use you, abuse you, and throw you out again. And then not even tell. And at first, he didn't even tell me that he was working with MUFON.
Who?
Eric Mitchell.
Oh, what happened there? If you want to say anything, if not, it's okay.
Well, I believe that he caught a photo in my yard and he photoshopped the porch out. Like the porch, I was living in South Carolina, and whatever this thing was, it looked hideous. Um, but he came in and he slammed the door and he locked it and he said, "Stay in." And he was in a frantic mode, right? And he shows me this picture, but then jerks the phone back because I'm trying to send it to my phone, because I was going to send it to my phone and I was going to have my friend look at it and see if it was Photoshop. You know what I mean? That way I could settle that case, because I don't know. I feel sometimes people do that. They come around and they, grab enough information off of somebody that they need, and then they throw them out. And
Well,
that's the problem we
exactly.
deal with.
That yes, Rocco, that's what's been happening with me, and I put a stop to it by, you know, by putting out that video that we all did the other day, because that's exactly what they were doing. They were coming to me for psychic advice because I see things, I hear things, you know, I got all these abilities because they don't. Okay. So then they're like, "Oh, I remember this." And it's like, I have a memory myself of that. And then they, you know, then they go to the other people, they leave me here, you know, which whatever. I finally found out that pattern. They'll go with me, do all these videos about space and whatever.
Oh
And
yeah,
then they
that's got to
backstab
stop.
you.
That's
Yeah,
got to
that has to
really
stop.
stop. It
That has to
has to
stop.
stop. The space shit has to stop, because we have no evidence as far as other than testimony really with that. Okay, yeah, I can sit there with a telescope all night and video camera all night and film. Is that really what it is?
You there I can't hear you, dude. They don't want you to say anything. Cuz I'm
One
not muting
second.
you. I'm not muting
Can you hear
you.
me now?
Yeah.
All right, that'll work.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. No, I had a phone call come through and I declined it.
Okay.